Hey neighbor.
Hey.
What you doing outside? Maybe you should be inside right now, you know? You could bring your computer.
What's a computer?
What? Why would you say something like that? It's such a ridiculous question for anyone to ask. What's up, guys? I'm KBHD here. Welcome back to Quarantine Content. Just a little bit of entertainment for you while we're all staying inside. And I do have a new product here. I've been using the new 2020 iPad Pro for about a week. This is the bigger 12.9-inch iPad Pro, 1 terabyte, space gray. This is the one I and a lot of people were very excited about when it first got revealed. So of course, it looks familiar. You know, the form factor of the iPad Pro has not changed. This is more of a refresh to the tablet that we all know and love. But there are some improvements that yet again push it. It feels like even farther ahead of the competition now. The last few years, I've been pretty impressed with just how good iPad Pro has been as far as a tablet user experience, and that lead again grows here. Now, this is a review of the new iPad, but as you may recall, one of the most interesting accessories in recent memory launched alongside it, and that was the new Magic Keyboard. It's this case with a backlit keyboard and a pass-through USB Type-C port, and then a floating magnetic mount for the iPad and a trackpad. So really, it's definitely that I gotta get my hands on. It is $300, or actually $350 for the bigger one, but I definitely need to see if that accessory, or the one Logitech makes, or really anyone like it, can make the iPad Pro a computer. So definitely hit subscribe if you haven't already to be one of the first to see that when it comes out. It's supposed to come out in May, and I think that's probably gonna be accurate. But for now, let's do a review of what we do actually have, which is the new iPad Pro. So really, there are two main improvements that you should know about with this new iPad, and that's the new A12Z Bionic chip and the new camera system. So the new chip is incredible, again. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be surprised by this, but it makes the iPad Pro, again, even more of a performance monster than the previous gen. Now, it's not some insane performance jump from the last iPad Pro, but a step forward at all is pretty great. And you can see it crushes Geekbench, putting out just about the highest single core score you'll see, especially on any mobile device. And Geekbench is also showing me 6 gigs of RAM. And we kind of had something like this happen last year where we were wondering if all of the new iPad Pros have the same amount of RAM. I asked Apple if they all have 6 gigs of RAM, or is it just the big 1 terabyte version? And they said they're not gonna say. That's something people will find out when they get them. Which to me sounds like, no, they don't all have 6 gigs of RAM. But either way, that is more than usual in a well-optimized iOS device, as we know, that like sort of feels like the same expansiveness as the 16 gigs of RAM in the S20 Ultra again. So all in all, you use this thing and you can tell it is consistently a performance monster, which is great news for gaming, great news for multitasking, or just doing anything heavy, you know, having a bunch of tabs open with a bunch of desktop sites, or keeping a lot of things in memory, just the whole thing. Plus, you can't forget about having that super snappy 120 hertz display and the 240 hertz touch refresh rate tying it all together. So performance is there. And then there is the new camera system on the back. Now, I know I rag on this a lot. Like, why do you really need an amazing camera in the back of the iPad? Are you really gonna be the guy in the back row of the concert holding it up, blocking everyone's view like this? Are you gonna be that guy? Like, I basically felt like you can probably put just about any off-the-shelf camera on the back of the iPad, as long as it's good enough for document scanning, you know, the occasional video call. That's probably good enough, right? Like, no one's doing serious photography on an iPad, right? But this new camera module, while it is better at a lot of things, it also leans in a bit of a different direction, and that is for AR. So you again have a 12 megapixel primary camera, not as good as the iPhone 11, but it is pretty good. And then it also adds a 10 megapixel ultra wide camera, which, fine, okay, if you're gonna add another lens, it's better than a pointless telephoto, Google. And then that third spot, this weird looking opaque circle on the back right hand side, that is a LiDAR scanner. Yeah, LiDAR. Light detection and ranging is what that stands for, in case you're wondering. But this isn't something you typically see in mobile applications. LiDAR you might recognize from like some self-driving car projects or rovers on other planets. This is essentially, it's using this as a scanner to bounce the light off of objects and create a depth map to get a second layer of understanding of the world around the camera. So why does the iPad get LiDAR? Think of it as a really impressive depth sensor, specifically for AR. So the Measure app, for example, pretty good AR app, fires up, and instead of needing to slowly pan around and scan the room to calibrate, it immediately knows what's up, starts to recognize surfaces and lines, and it takes more precise measurements that stay pinned in the environment better than ever before. Like, it is a really noticeable difference to me. Now, I still probably wouldn't trust the Measure app again for serious activities like hanging a permanently mounted TV to the wall, but hey, it's a lot better. And there are some other apps too that will notice a significant speed and accuracy improvement for all things augmented reality. So does the LiDAR make a difference? Yes, definitely. But I don't use AR stuff that much that it would be a reason for me to get a new iPad. Now, it's an interesting new hardware move because now it's sort of like Apple saying, this is how you do great augmented reality. Does that mean every future high-end camera from Apple has to have LiDAR? Like, does that mean the new iPhone that comes out later this year will have a LiDAR scanner on the back? Probably. But as someone who doesn't play Pokemon Go, I can't remember the last time I was wishing AR on the iPad was dramatically better. Not that it's a complaint, it's definitely much better than it was before. It's just not a reason I would go out to spend money on a new iPad versus the last one. Also, weirdly, with all that improvement for depth detection on the back, if you open the iPad's camera app, there's still no portrait mode on the back camera. It's still only selfie portraits that don't use LiDAR. So this crazy impressive, expensive new sensor specifically for sensing depth is not used to improve portrait mode, the thing that I think most people use most of the time at all. All right, but that's about it as far as physical changes to the iPad Pro. There's some other little things like improved microphone quality, which you're hearing right now. I really like this trend, Apple. Keep this up. I hope everyone realizes microphones are important. And there's also now Wi-Fi 6 on board, so that's awesome if your router supports it. And really everything else that we already love about the last gen iPad Pro is still here. The quad speaker system, for example, still here, still best in class for any tablet. They sound awesome. The battery life is still excellent, especially on the bigger model. USB Type-C still here, still awesome. There's still hella magnets like everywhere, all over the tablet for all those accessories that snap to it. And it's still overall the same boxy, kind of thin form factor that Zach snapped in half. But hey, I still love it. Now, like I mentioned, I don't have the new accessories yet, but what I do have is iPadOS 13.4, which is the latest version that does include now the new real cursor support. And you can probably see where this is going. I also now have an extra Magic Trackpad that I've paired to this iPad. And I gotta say, it is pretty cool seeing a cursor pop up automatically as soon as you connect via Bluetooth. And the cursor itself, as you may have seen in the ads, it isn't a normal arrow cursor. It's more of a translucent circle like your finger on the screen would be. And it just moves around as you would expect with your cursor input. But then almost any time you get over a recognized touch point, whether it's in an app or in a menu, that cursor sort of snaps to a box shape over that touch point. And you can move between nearby touch points a little easier that way. It's a very iPad way of doing things, but it makes a lot of sense. But the thing is, it works some of the time, not all the time. Like, it works in some places, but not every single place you might expect it to. So really, apps are gonna have to get updated to support the full array of button sensing, I guess is what it might be called. But so far so good. But even in like Safari, for example, there's gonna be a lot of websites where you just gotta trust a normal mouse over and use it like a normal cursor, which usually works, but that just means it'll be a little inconsistent at the start. And then there's multi-finger gestures, and it's a couple new gestures to learn if you don't already use macOS. It's slightly different from what you'd already do on the screen on the iPad, but they do still make sense. So there's the 3-finger swipe up to go home from anywhere. And there's also 2 fingers to scroll up and down, and it's the natural scrolling direction. And then 3-finger swipe left or right to move between multitasking apps, things like that. And there's a bunch more, and you can use as many or as little of them as you want. The thing is, a lot of the gestures now are more parallel to what you would do on a Mac than what you would typically do on an iPad. So it can feel like a new set of things to learn and memorize, but this is something I'll dive a lot more into in part 2 with the Magic Keyboard review. But overall, still, the iPad Pro is easily my favorite tablet again, and it's not really close. Now, the new things they added, the A12Z Bionic and the new camera system, while they're not like huge reasons to upgrade for anyone who already has a current iPad Pro, they are still good things, and they're solid little refresh updates. Now, if we're still asking the question, can this replace your laptop? As of right now, with those accessories not out, I don't know that the answer just for the iPad has really changed, but I think it's very clear that Apple has been thinking about that question with the cursor support and iOS, and I'm pretty excited to actually try it all as one unit. So either way, thanks for watching. Check out the merch at the link below. It's good stuff. And feel free to stay tuned for part 2. Till the next one, catch you guys later. Peace. You hanging out outside? You should probably be inside, you know, this time of year. You could bring your computer.